Robert Plank Show, Episode 1, How to Start an Internet Business on Autopilot. Hey, what's up? My name's Robert Plank. This is the very first episode of the Robert Plank Show. We're going to be talking today together, you and I, about how to get this whole internet business thing started up, how to get it running on its own, and pretty much how to get the freedom and the life and all that cheesy stuff that you know you deserve. We'll be right back in just 1 second. Today's episode is brought to you by newbiecrusher.com, where we're going to show you how to set up your entire internet business in just 48 hours. Lots of cool, exciting stuff to get to, and I'll see you in just 1 short second. Alright, cool. So, what's up? My name is Robert Plank, and however you discovered me, however you discovered this podcast, I'm really glad to meet you. I know that many of you are listening because you're followers of my blog, or you're on my subscriber list, or maybe you've even been browsing iTunes, or somehow stumbled across this audio. My name is Robert Plank. I make a full-time, mid-six-figure living on the internet. I probably shouldn't have said six-figure because, well, what happens? Well, one or two things happen, right? Either six figures is way out of reach, way beyond any amount of money you could make from your own autopilot business with no work, or it's too little, and you know what? I just don't have time for that. I just want to get to the millions and millions of dollars. And the thing about me, and I hope that we're kind of similar, is that there's always room to improve. So even if you're making gobs and gobs of money, well, I'm sure I can show you a way to squeeze out an extra six figures this year somewhere without doing too much. Because it's one of those things where even when we get to the crazy advanced sales funnels and all this technical stuff, it's always the basics, it's always the fundamentals that we end up missing, that we can always go back to pull some more money out of the internet. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how to set up your own internet business on autopilot. And, well, what does that really mean? Well, for me, that means that every day that I wake up, I have a bunch of money that came in overnight. And yeah, that sounds kind of cheesy, sounds kind of hypey, but it's true. And the reason for that is because I have people coming in the door overnight without me doing anything. People coming in the door every holiday, every weekend, all over the world. And what are they doing? Well, they're finding a web page of mine. And usually it's a piece of software, or it's a training course. Like I run several training courses with my business partner, Lance Tomashiro. So people are looking around the internet for some kind of a solution to their problem. Well, what kind of solution? Well, we have, for example, a plugin called Backup Creator. What that plugin does is it takes someone's website, someone's WordPress blog, and makes a backup of it and allows someone to restore it somewhere else and basically clone or copy their website. We have a training course called Membership Cube, and what that does is it's a training course where someone can set up their own membership site and host their own downloads, videos, reports, information products, and charge money for those. We have a training course called Webinar Crusher, which shows people how to create their online show. And yeah, you're listening to an online show, but we're talking about an online show where they can show their screen, people can hear their voice, you can have hundreds or thousands of attendees show up and listen and watch your screen live. And at the end of that 1 hour pitch, you can actually have something for sale. So all of these things are solutions to people's problems. And that is what making money on the internet's all about. Every single website that makes money is delivering a solution to someone's problem. One of my favorite websites in the world is called Amazon.com. Maybe you've heard of it. But they're one of the most successful websites. And, I'm sure I could look up all kinds of fancy, impressive statistics about it. But the thing about this site called Amazon.com is that they have all kinds of stuff for sale, right? But let's just think about this for 1 second. When you buy something on Amazon.com, why do you buy something there that you don't buy somewhere else? Well, it depends what you're buying, doesn't it? If you're buying, for example, an ebook, a Kindle book, you're buying from Amazon because you don't want to have to go to the store You know that all the reviews are there. Maybe Amazon.com sent you an email saying, well, based on your past purchase history, you'd want to buy this Kindle book. Maybe you were buying something else completely, and then Amazon said, you know what, people who bought this also bought this Kindle book. But either way, you ended up on this site called Amazon.com, and based on something on that web page, they convinced you to buy. And maybe you showed up on that web page and you were going to buy anyway. Maybe you showed up on the web page and you were looking for one specific item, and because that item was cheaper on Amazon, that's what got you to buy it. I know that for me, sometimes I'll buy things on Amazon.com that are more expensive than in the real world, but I'll buy it just because of the convenience, because I know that my purchase is just one login away. I can just click a button, it'll show up. It's guaranteed to show up. I trust them. I've done business with them before. And so any site that you set up is basically a miniature Amazon.com. But of course, you can't compete with Amazon.com, can you? Because they kind of have a hold on that marketplace, right? You can't really compete with a site, for example, like Facebook, because they have hundreds of millions, or maybe by the time you listen to this, billions of subscribers. And you just can't compete. You have to be different. So how can you be different? Well, in my case, I sell a WordPress plugin, and I have a website, a web page, where there's really nothing else on that web page other than a video, maybe some text, and a place to buy that plugin. People can't go on Amazon.com to buy my WordPress plugin, right? So there's still plenty of room on the internet for everyone to make money as long as you are providing value. If you're directly copying someone else, you're not really providing value, are you? But if you do this thing called information marketing, you sell information products, that's one area where no one's really going to be able to duplicate you, to copy you. And so what I do, just to make a long story long, is my niche is software training. And I sell software, and I teach people about other software. So I mentioned a few of our programs. I mentioned Backup Creator, right? That is what's called a WordPress plugin. WordPress is probably the easiest way to set up a website. If you have like a blog, which means that you have basically an online journal, most of those sites are powered by a piece of software called WordPress. And WordPress allows you to add things called plugins. So for example, if you wanted to add a pop-up box to your WordPress blog, you use a plugin. Now, by the way, I have a plugin for that called Action Pop-Up. But here's the problem. There's these cool things called WordPress, but people don't always know how to use them. And sure, there are free videos online, on YouTube. The people who create the software create videos. But when you want to use a piece of software for one specific purpose, that kind of opens up a new marketplace for you. And so what ended up happening for me was I was a computer programmer, and I didn't want to get stuck at some kind of a day job where I was a smart person but didn't get paid very much, or had to work long hours just for a low amount of money. And so I realized at a kind of a young age that I wanted to be more than a programmer. I didn't want to be just a programmer. In the same way that, I'm sure whatever brought you to me, whatever brought you to listening to this audio, you want to be more than just what you are. And I'll give you a couple examples. One of our students is the storyboarder for SpongeBob SquarePants. His name is Sherm Cohen. And I'm sure he makes good money. I don't want to ask, but he created SpongeBob. He draws for he drew for Hey Arnold and a bunch of other stuff, but like SpongeBob, he does the storyboarding. He sketches it out, does all the characters, all that kind of stuff. And so that's great, right? That's great, except for you have a boss, except for you have this skill. And it's always kind of fun to show someone else your skill, isn't it? If you know how to set up a web page, if you know how to get ranked highly in Google, then it's kind of a fun skill. And many of our students have all kinds of crazy skills, not always technical. So this guy who draws SpongeBob, he has a class called Storyboard Secrets. And I think it's like a 10 DVD course. We got him to add like a online membership component. It's $500, I believe, and he walks you through all these different things, like how to frame a scene, uh, how to add depth, and how to do all kinds of crazy artist stuff, which I don't even understand. And people pay big bucks for that. And what's cool about that business model is, first of all, it's something that he loves and enjoys doing. And to be honest, he probably would have created those videos for free. But even though he's charging money for them, he did the work, put in the time, put in the effort once, created that product once. And then he put those videos online. Then he put those DVDs into a fulfillment center. And then someone is looking around the internet, and for one reason or another, they're looking for a course on storyboarding. I'm friends with him on Google Plus and on Facebook, and whenever he posts anything, he gets tons of responses, and many of these responses come from other big name artists, other cartoonists. And when I say cartoonists, I mean people who have cartoons on TV, or who like draw movies, like digital animators even. So he has this huge following of people who, for one reason or another, want to become a successful storyboarder, who want to know how to refine their skill, how to know the advanced techniques, how to put together a portfolio so they can get hired. Basically all the things that art school failed to teach them. Or maybe art school taught them, but now that's outdated. Or they couldn't pick up a few extra techniques. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe they can't afford art school right now and they want to still get ahead. Either way, they look at this webpage, they find a webpage, they search on Google, they go on Facebook, however they find this webpage, they find it. And they see that he has a course called Storyboard Secrets. I feel like I'm pitching it. But anyway, Storyboard Secrets, and they see all the bullet points and all the modules, and for one reason or another, they say, I want that. And then he says it's $500. Now, for some people, $500 is expensive. For some people, $500 is cheap, because it's cheaper than the $120,000 it would cost to go to the San Francisco Academy of Art School. For some people, they say $500 is an investment in my future. Whatever their justification is, then they can click a button, they can pay money right there online, and then they can download the videos, watch the videos online, and then their discs get sent to them in a few days. But the point is that it all kind of happens on autopilot. And people who don't make money online, they're missing one of the several pieces. I shouldn't say several. They're missing one of the pieces to get started online, and there really aren't that many. Okay, if I can just get a piece of paper and I can just write down a couple, because I kind of want to talk to you right now. They need to have a niche. Now, a niche is like what we just talked about, storyboarding. Another one of our students, his name is John Braun. He's the Hitman advertising guy, and his niche is carpet cleaning. And once again, kind of a goofy topic, right? And I think he has like an actual carpet cleaning business. I'm not sure if he still goes into people's homes, but I mean, whenever someone buys a new home, or they just want to fix up their home, they bring in a team of people who come in and deep shampoo the carpets and all that kind of stuff, or get all kinds of stains out. And so he wanted to improve his carpet cleaning business and realized that by using things like building an email list, by caring about where you get ranked in Google, by setting up a Facebook fan page worrying about social media, he can get a heck of a lot more business, and he can show this system to carpet cleaners in other areas. What's cool about this is that they aren't his competitors, because when you have an offline business, you can only really reach a certain area, right? You can only really take your carpet cleaning equipment an hour or two drive away, maybe even not that far. So if there's a carpet cleaner across the country and their business is struggling and he just enjoys teaching this, well, now he can become the authority, the expert, whatever buzzword you want to call it, about improving a carpet cleaning business. We have a chiropractor in Australia who bought Backup Creator, and what he does is he set up his website in a certain way. And I think he set up his chiropractor website with a certain color scheme, and he uses WordPress, and he has certain ways of showing directions to the business address, maybe even a way to book the appointment, but he has this whole system. And so this chiropractor in Australia, he sells websites, pre-made websites for thousands of dollars to other chiropractors because he has the skill, and sure, he can fix your back, but he can also show other chiropractors how to improve their business. And I could just go on and on. We have like a student, Bob Moulton, who teaches guitar, and his niche is, well, he says you could go to a music store. You could find some guitar instructor on Craigslist, pay him hundreds of dollars, go to his house, spend all this extra time, work around his schedule, or learn the guitar online at your convenience from me, and you get all this extra stuff. So you have this thing called a niche, right? And I mean, even if you think about Amazon.com, well, their niche is pretty broad, but even if you think about it, are there things that you cannot buy on Amazon? Well, yeah. So on Amazon, I mean, their niche for a long time was books, right? And then, you could also buy DVDs, electronics, now digital books. But I mean, just to make it simple, Amazon's niche is physical products. Just to, if we can ignore the ebooks, the Kindle stuff, just to make it simple, Amazon's niche is physical products. Now you need to have a very tight niche, just like how Sherm has storyboarding, John Braun has carpet cleaning, Bob Moulton has teaching guitar. And when I first got started online over 10 years ago, maybe even longer since you might be listening to this later, I thought, oh cool, I don't know anything about the internet, but I'm going to teach people how to make money online. And that doesn't work, right? But what I did know was this thing called computer programming, this thing called PHP programming, and years later it also became WordPress plugins. But I thought, okay, I have this skill, and what I need to do is get paid for it. And what I would do is I get paid a few $100s to set up someone's website. And it was pretty cool because I was 16 years old and I was paid $300 to set up like someone's website with 3 different columns and a couple of pages. But I think it was just like 5 pages for $300. It took me all weekend, but at that age, $300, I mean, I had friends who worked all summer just to get $300. So that was awesome. And then what that turned into was I networked on forums. Now we have LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, we have social media sites. But it's the same idea. And we still have forums as well. So it's even easier now to find the right person. So I networked and I went on these different message boards to get hired. I posted on programming boards, and usually on those message boards, discussion forums, I came across people who kind of said, well, help me with my computer homework, help me fix this plugin, this piece of software. That didn't really help me. But what I stumbled on, I found a few other message boards like SitePoint, Digital Point, Warrior Forum, and these had people who were setting up websites. And many of these websites were actually making money. Imagine that, going where the money is. And what that led to were people who had a need for a programmer. They needed a programmer to code something up. And one of my big breaks, what happened was I met someone named Teresa King. I don't want to tell you my whole life story. I'm not going to do one of those things, but this is going to help you. I met someone named Teresa King who wanted a script plugin made that would protect online payments. Back then, early 2000s, we didn't have this technology. And she wanted to have something where if someone paid money, they were sent to a web page, they could download something, but if they didn't pay money, they were locked out. And back in the day, you could actually look at, you can like right-click and view the source code of a web page and find a way to get products without paying. Kind of scary. So we created a plugin that solved a need that protected people's digital products. Because if we sold this thing for $50 and someone looked at it and said, well, that costs $50, but that's going to save me $500, $5,000, $50,000 down the line, it's worth that $50. It's a very useful tool. And so that kind of led to me, I would get paid bigger and bigger amounts taking on bigger and bigger projects to do this. Someone would say, I have a problem, I need you to code this program up for me, I'm going to pay you money. So that went on and on and on, and then I got to the point where I wanted some leverage, right? It was fine being, I was basically an employee, right? The whole time I was trying to avoid becoming an employee, and I turned into the thing I was avoiding. But instead of having one boss, I was pretty much a temp worker, right? I would just go from boss to boss every week, depending on who hired me on the internet that week. So something had to change, and what I did was I created an information product. This means that I noticed the patterns. I noticed that when I was hired over and over for these various tasks, that people kept asking for kind of the same stuff. People would ask for what's called an email autoresponder. So they'd want a program that sends out emails to people who ask for a free product, people who willingly enter their email address. People would ask for like pop-up boxes. People would ask for quiz scripts, so maybe they could sell a product or sell access to a membership site. And inside of that, have someone take a test in order to prove they understand something. So people would ask me these same things over and over, just like I'm sure Bob Moulton, the guitar instructor, would find himself teaching the same lessons to a beginner guitar player, the same kind of lessons to an intermediate guitar player, teach, I don't know, like certain how to read music, how to do rhythm, how to do like the different finger positions, whatever else there is about learning a guitar. I have no idea. But he ended up going through the same process. But it was important to get paid for this because first of all, you got to pay the bills. Second of all, your time is worth something. And finally, third, you perfect your own unique formula, your own unique system. And the way that are the kind of programs, plugins, scripts that I would create, it was very different than what everyone else created, right? And whatever it is that you do, and I know that you have some kind of skill. If you're a writer, your writing process is different than everyone else's. And you aren't just a writer, are you? You're a copywriter, article writer, ghostwriter, something like that, or just like a blogger. So you have your own little unique niche. And within that, you have your own unique way of doing things. So I ended up selling these products that people could just. At first, I tried to teach programming, but my crowd didn't really want that because once again, where's the money at? Was the money at really teaching programming? Well, it really kind of wasn't. I wasn't going for the nerds because the nerds didn't have money. I was going for the business owners, the marketers, and what they wanted were plug-and-play solutions. They really, really wanted to just pay me and have me do the work for them. But I said, well, what if I give you the next best thing for 1% of the cost? And what I would do is I took about 7 of my most asked PHP solutions, software plugins, and put them all into one package. And I would say once you use all 7 of these, and you can use these 7 in any order, use just one, use them all, but these will all accomplish a specific purpose, and that purpose is you put it on your website and you make more money. So I ended up selling so many of these products, right? And probably my favorite one, looking back in the day, was called Sales Page Tactics, and I think. So these were different sizes. I think that one had like 19 scripts, 19 plugins, and so there were things like, well, you could put in a countdown timer, and here you go. Here's the code. Copy and paste it. Boom, it's done. And I would even throw in extra instructions on, for example, how to adjust it to do what you want. So I'd say, well, here's a countdown timer. If you want like a giant countdown timer, change this, 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 and this. But I think and at one point I was looking at, well, what makes me unique, right? Why should someone buy from me instead of some other copycat? And at this point they were copycats. But if you stick with me in this audio, you're going to figure out why copycats don't matter. Because are there other storyboarders besides Sherm Cohen? Yeah. Are there other carpet cleaners besides John Braun? Yeah. Are there other guitar instructors besides Bob Bolton? Well, heck yeah. So why buy from them? Why buy from me? Why buy from you? And I mean, that answer depends on the person. So my answer at first was that, well, these are scripts that I actually use. Because when you go to other programmers to learn programming, if you go to a bookstore to get a book on programming, what do you get? You usually get like a 500, 600 page encyclopedia that tries to teach every little thing, and they made sure to just cram all kinds of knowledge you don't need just to fill up space, because if they have a massive book on computers, well, then it's in their best interest to give you the giant book sitting next to the small book, right? So that was one thing, is that I would say, well, this isn't for everyone. If you're a nerd looking to program, you don't want this. But once again, if you're a marketer, a business owner who wants to increase your conversions, make more money, then yes, use these plugins. So there was that. And the other thing is that by like the mid 2000s, I discovered how to record video. Now you might be able to tell from the way that I speak, I'm not a professional speaker. I'm a lot like you. So I was really nervous at first about being on camera, being on the microphone, someone hearing my voice, and I really avoided it. But mid-2000s, I started recording videos just because making a product took too freaking long. I'd have to code stuff, write stuff, and it wasn't worth all that time. And so I started recording these things on video, and I had plenty of ideas because I had plenty of people wanting to hire me, and it got to the point where I said, you know what, you could hire me, but instead, how about I just make this for you for free? And I'll make a new product with this as one of the 7 plugins. It'll come out next week. You get it for free, and I'll put in my book. I'll put your name in my book, and I'll explain this exact message. I'll even copy and paste this exact email you just sent me asking for this problem to be solved. You emailed me asking me, can you put a countdown timer on a web page? You asked, can you set up a web page so that when someone first visits that page, they see this message. When they come back a second time, the message changes to that. If someone comes back a third time, the message changes once again. When you asked me, can you set up a plugin where it shows one thing on a web page, but then by Friday the price doubles, or by Saturday the offer's gone. And so instead of taking money one time for that, I would take the idea, give them credit of course, put it in my product, and make a lot more money by selling to a lot of people. Right? So before, I was getting paid, say, $500, $1,000, but now I put this into a $20 information product and sold a couple hundred copies and now made $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. And it just got ridiculous, and I kept doing it. I kept doing it where I would launch 2 products a week. Okay, and so a product meant that I record about maybe 90 minutes of video, make about 7 plugins, and have probably a 50-page report explaining what's in it. I would write a web page called this. We would call this a sales letter, where I would explain what was in the product. I would set up what's called a payment button, which means that we take orders automatically, and a download page where someone could, download their product. I would send out an email to my subscriber list telling people that I have this new product. Most of my lists at the time were people who'd bought previous products. And then I would go out and promote this product on other message boards. So this was building a business. At the time, I mistakenly thought of it as a hobby. I thought, okay, well, I'm in college. I'm reaching the end of college. I'm looking for like an internship, a job, and this is extra money on the side. And so because I had that mentality, I really thought twice about spending more than a couple hours on it. And those hours I did spend were not very focused. And I know that you've been there, right? You've been at that point where maybe you spend all day on Twitter, all day checking emails, all day buying this, buying that, buy this $5 product, this $1 product, this $50 product, buying, not really making any progress. And so I was treating it like a hobby, not really as a business yet, but I really wanted money. And I found a way to make some really easy money, and I was also worried that if I sat around for too long, that this system wouldn't work anymore. That internet marketing would change. Internet marketing kind of has changed. The basics still work, but things change over time, even from one year to the next. I was worried about competitors, so I made sure to put out 2 products a day. And so what would happen is I would come home from class, and then at one point I get to the point where I also had a job at the university as well. So I would come home from a day of classes and working. I would have my products pretty much ready to go from a couple days before. And usually I think I would put most of the effort into this like during weekends, and then during the week release it, right? So I would come home, I would upload everything, get everything ready to go. I would send out an email. I would get ready to go to the gym, and get all settled, eat dinner, and check back on my computer before I left for the gym and have $1,000 sitting in my PayPal account, which is what we use to receive payments. So $1,000 that I didn't have an hour before that had just poured in. Pretty cool stuff. I'd go out, go to the gym. I had a couple of gym buddies, people where we all had an agreement to meet at a set time and a set location and kind of exercise. And so I do that and then come back after about an hour or so, maybe we'd hang out, but come back a couple hours later at night, and have another $1,000 in PayPal. And then it would pretty much stop. So I don't want to tell you that I became a millionaire overnight. Well, no. Okay, but that was some really nice spending money, and it took a lot of the pressure off, because I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. I had multiple sources of income. I had this job I had, but I didn't really take that job seriously, because the amount of money I made from that was a few $100s per month, and then the income I had from my business was thousands and thousands of dollars per month. So real disparity there. And then I don't want to tell you all my whole life story, but pretty much got to the point where one of those things had to win out, and I ended up quitting my job to do this full time. And I've been at this full time for years and years. And the formula, the basic formula hasn't changed. But what has changed is that instead of creating a brand new product every time, instead of thinking, okay, well, what new thing am I going to create? Many times, I'll just promote something that I already have. But the components, and many marketers will tell you this, the components it breaks down to is this thing called a list, this thing called traffic, and this thing called offers. And if you think about even my favorite website, Amazon.com, they have a list, they have traffic, they have offers. If you do a Google search for, I don't know, the latest laptop, latest camera, even something like Apple iPad, on the front page you're almost guaranteed to find a search result from Amazon.com. So that's their traffic, right? Amazon has this thing called an affiliate program, where other people can create blogs, videos, link to other products, get a commission. That's their traffic, right? Offers are pretty simple because they sell all kinds of stuff. Those are their offers, right? They sell Kindle books, physical books, electronics, all kinds of office supplies, crazy stuff. I've bought meat off Amazon.com, okay? And it comes, packed in dry ice. It's like healthy, like corn-fed beef or something. But that's from Amazon.com. There are a list of weird things you can buy on Amazon.com, but they have all kinds of different offers. Streaming video, music, just all kinds of stuff, right? But then this final component, which you probably don't even realize, is they have the most valuable piece of all this, is a list, okay? Now, what's a list? Well, a list is, they have a list of customers, a list of prospects. And if Amazon.com wants more money, they contact this list. You might be thinking, well, that's not true. Amazon doesn't email me, but they do. I know they email me every single week. Every week an email comes in from Amazon.com, and usually it'll be like a graphical email, and they'll say, well, look at our latest DVD releases. Look at our latest computer parts, our latest laptops. And I'm so used to receiving this email that I don't even really think twice about it. And many times I'll click over and buy something that I don't even need, or something that I have needed, but Amazon is tricky because they track things that you search for or that you look at, but then you didn't end up buying it, but they'll email you a week later and say, well, you were looking at this, you want to buy it? And you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. I was going to buy that water filter. I was researching water filters, and you sent me this again. I'm now going to go buy it. So a list is what you really want. A list is traffic on demand, and if you think about it as well, if you're on Amazon.com and you see something and you go in to buy it, well, do they just ask for your credit card information? Well, that's part of it, but they want you to log into your Amazon account. Why? Because they are adding you to a list, because they want to track you personally. Taking payments is great, but taking repeat payments is even better. And when I say repeat payments, that might mean a monthly fee because, like, for example, if you buy, I think like toilet paper or many of their grocery items, you can actually set it up for them to ship you more of that every month or every couple of months. Kind of cool. So that's one thing. But also, I mean, if you just buy one thing and a few weeks later they send you another email, then and you buy that, well, then that's still recurring income on their part, right? So to have a successful internet business, you have to have a list, you have to have traffic, you have to have offers. So all right. So this music is playing, and that means that it is time for Robert Plank's thought of the day, and it's just 3 words, and with a question mark at the end. And that thought of the day is, why slow down? I hope that it kind of made sense to you when I was talking about, I figured out a way to make $2,000. Not a bunch of money, but $2,000. And I could have easily made $2,000 one time and then stop, not done it anymore. And many people do that. They have this thing that's called going around through life with one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. Their goal is to just make $1,000 online. Just make $10,000 online, and they reach it and they quit and they're out of it forever. And I don't want that for you. I want you to get everything you've always wanted and to keep pushing yourself and get out of your comfort zone and not, overwork yourself, not burn yourself out, but move things forward along as fast and as far as you can make it. And the way I always think about it is, what if I look back and I'm 100 years old, and I think, what if I could look back at the present day from the future, if that makes sense, and there's more that I could have done. And so I always kind of try to have, or I not try, but I have that mindset in mind, which that sounds kind of funny, but that's what I'm always thinking about, is I want a shortcut. I want to do as much as possible, which means that if I'm going to send out one extra email, then I'll do it. If I have to contact one extra person, make one extra product, take this seriously, treat it as a real business, then I will. And so that's what I want to tell you today is why slow down. If you can figure out how to send an email and make some money from that, well then why not send 10 emails? If you can make money from one product, why not create 10 products? And that's the thought of the day today, is why slow down? And the answer to that question is, well, there's no reason to slow down, okay? Find something that works, repeat it, keep using it until it doesn't work, and then find something else that does work, if that makes sense. So that was Robert Plank's thought of the day. So right back at it, we're going to figure out exactly what pieces you need to start an internet business on Autopilot. We said there's lists, traffic, and offers, and that sounds great, but what do you actually have to set up? Well, I had mentioned at the beginning of this call, we have a product called newbiecrusher.com, NEWBIECRUSHER.com. And in that course, we break down the different components you need to make money online. And I'll just list them to you right now, and we'll step through them. Mentioned a niche, right? Carpet cleaning, storyboarding, that kind of stuff. You need to have an opt-in page, which is a web page where someone can enter their name and email address. You need to have an email autoresponder sequence, which means that you built that list, but now you have to actually send people messages. You need to tell them what to buy. Now, what do you tell them to buy? We need to have what's called a sales letter, okay, which is a web page where someone can click a button, pay you money, and get something. You need to have a membership site. Well, let's just say membership site / download page. But you need to have some place that someone can go in order to get that. And then let's say that you also need to have a blog, okay, even if it has just a couple of posts, so that you're selling based on what you have for sale, and that's good, but you also have your personality. That's why I'm making this podcast. That's why you post on Facebook. Maybe you market on Facebook, but there's having a brand, but there's also the personality part, which is so important. And finally, you need traffic. Okay, so the things I just listed were niche, opt-in page, email autoresponder sequence, sales letter, membership site, blog, and traffic. And it sounds like a lot, but it's pretty basic. And anyone who makes any kind of money online for more than a few months has most of these, if not all of these components set up. So you need to choose a niche. Choose, say, for example, if you're teaching guitar. Now, based on that, you need to set up what's called an opt-in page. And this means that someone goes to their web page and you say, free report, how to play these 4 pop songs on the guitar in less than 30 minutes and impress all your friends. Now, if someone is looking around the internet and they're just researching, right? They're trying to figure out which is the best guitar course, what kind of guitar material should I buy? Should I buy a DVD from Amazon, a book, a Kindle book, go to an instructor? What should I do? They search around Google and they find your opt-in page. Now, to have this kind of web page, what do you need? Well, you need to have what's called a domain name. So you go to a site like Namecheap, NAMECHEAP.com, and you get what's called a .com name or a domain name. So you end up having a site, for example, like, I don't know, guitarplayingsecrets.com. I guarantee you that's someone's website. So you get a domain name. And, having a name is great, but now you need to have a web page, right? So what we do is we also have a thing called a web host. And this is pretty much where you log in and where you point this domain name. So for web host, we use a service called HostGator, HostGator, HostGator. So you get a domain name, you get a web host, and now you just set up a very simple white blank opt-in page. Now, to set up an opt-in page, let me just list one, or I guess 2 final tools. One thing you need to have is an email autoresponder service. Okay, and we recommend a service called Aweber, AWEBER.com. And then what they do is they allow you to collect and send emails. And everyone does this. Facebook, Amazon, Apple. The secret to their business is building that list to have that traffic on demand to be able to write one message and send it to thousands or millions of subscribers. So you get an autoresponder service, and so what they will end up doing when you log in to, for example, Aweber, is you create what's called a list, and then they give you a web form. You copy and paste that web form onto your web page. And when you do that, and someone sees that you have this report on how to play the guitar, they can enter in their name and their email address, fill that in, and you deliver their report by sending them to a download page. But now they are on your subscriber list. And don't get me wrong, you're not spamming. Because what do spammers do? What spammers do is they go around the internet and they grab email addresses and they get people on their list who didn't ask to be on. But this person voluntarily, we call, opted into your list. And every email you send has what's called an unsubscribe link. So anyone who joins, they can leave your list, but they're not stuck there. They chose to join because they're a targeted lead. They're someone who is researching guitar instruction. They come to your site, they see you've got this free report on guitar instruction, they get their free report, and then over time you can send them emails, or maybe even in your report you have links to like a paid product or guitar coaching, or you have links, like if you recommend a certain kind of guitar, you have a link to Amazon.com with your what's called your affiliate, your referral link. And if someone buys a $500 guitar on Amazon, you get a commission, you get a percentage of that. So multiple ways of monetizing this, but it all starts because someone is looking around the internet and they enter in their name and email address to get this free report. They read that report, and maybe at the end of the report, you send people back to your sales letter. You mention these Amazon.com affiliate links, all this kind of stuff. And maybe they'll click and view your webpage and maybe not buy just yet. But then in a week, another email gets sent out automatically. They read it. They click over, they buy. You know what? They might never buy. They might decide that they're not into guitar instruction. They might buy from someone else. But you know what? It's a numbers game. And I've had people on my email list since like 2004, and then years later in like 2012, then or even further down in the future, they end up buying at that point, years and years later. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter if one person finds you and doesn't buy, but if you can get 1,000, 10,000 or more people onto an email list and they're all interested in storyboarding, carpet cleaning, guitar instruction, WordPress plugins, then chances are that many of those people will buy. And once you get into internet marketing, or if you're already in it, once you split test or track your links, every number is really low. If you have a sales letter that converts at 1%, you're doing great. If you send out an email to your subscribers and 1% of your whole subscriber base clicks over from one email, you're doing pretty good. So we need to have big numbers just to make a living on the internet, but we have to have lists, traffic, offers, choose a niche, set up an opt-in page so we can start building that list, and then send out email. Send out an email autoresponder sequence that people will eventually buy. But what do they buy? Well, we can send them to like Amazon.com is the easy one. The problem with Amazon.com, the good thing about Amazon.com is they sell everything. So there's probably something that you can recommend. We have students who are into weight loss, dieting, exercise. So they can link to protein bars on Amazon.com. Maybe we can get them on the auto ship, like one of those monthly things. They can link to $500 Vitamix blenders. They can link to other people's video courses and get a commission. The problem is that it's very low commission. I believe it's 15% if they link directly to something, 5% for the next 3 days if someone clicks and then buys a different item. So very low percentage. Luckily, there's a site called ClickBank, ClickBank, where they have a whole marketplace, and some of these different vendors will sell products and give away 50 to 75% commission. So someone might have a product on ClickBank about how to get rock hard abs, and I forget what it's called. It's called something similar to that. And I think it's like $100, and they give away 75% commission, so you make a $75 sale. Someone has a product on ClickBank on how to improve your memory for $20, and they give away half of that, and so you get $10 per sale. But if you can get 1,000 sales, that's a nice little commission. So there are all these things on the internet called affiliate programs, affiliate marketplaces, and people will list them because, well, they need people like you to send them traffic, and in exchange for that traffic you send them, you get a commission, right? So that's good to start off, and in Newbie Crusher we get you through all this kind of stuff, but then we say, well, at some point you're going to want to go to the next level, right? You're going to want to not slow down. You're going to want to keep it going, right? And keep ramping up and keep expanding. So recommending other people's products are great, but at some point you're going to want to teach your own stuff. Just like how at first I provided a service, and that was fine until I noticed that everyone else did a crappy job of teaching programming. And they were teaching to the wrong crowd. They were saying, well, here's how to create what's called a hello world. Here's how to make your first computer program. And I was thinking, no, don't learn all of it. I'm going to give you the basics, put it on a web page. So you're going to, at some point, through boredom or frustration or just plain old being hungry, you're going to think of your own information product. And that's where all the cool stuff happens. We use a tool called Camtasia Recorder. It's $300. It's got a 30-day trial, and you can show your screen, show a PowerPoint, show your browser, show a piece of software, talk, record it, and now you have a video. And even a 1-hour video is something you can sell. Even a 1-hour CD is something you can sell. And so what we do is we create what's called a sales letter. And I've decided that the next episode of the Robert Plank Show will be all about how to create a sales letter, how to create a web page that sells. So someone's going to come to your web page, and something you'll say will convince them to buy. Just like how on Amazon.com, you might not know which book to buy today or which computer to buy, but something on an Amazon web page convinced you to buy. Or you came to that page ready to buy, and they just showed you the order button. But either way, you have a web page that has some words on it, maybe a video, that explains what you have to offer. Here's how to buy. So that's called a sales letter. So far, in the steps we've taken, we've decided a niche like carpet cleaning. we've created an opt-in page so that when someone is researching carpet cleaning, they find us. And we prove to them that we know a lot. We know so much that we're even giving them some of the information for free. Just like on this podcast, I'm giving you all the steps. The problem with a podcast, though, is that I can't show you. I can only give you the big picture. I can only kind of guide you through the way. And you know what? You can kind of take your notes and you can go and try to watch some YouTube videos, read some articles, but you're not going to get the complete picture unless you buy Newbie Crusher. Unless you join Newbie Crusher. But you know what I'm saying? I'm explaining to you, person to person, as a friend, like I would explain to like a family member or a neighbor or someone I went to school with or an ex-coworker, how to do this. And so that's what you do as well. In whatever your field is, you explain to someone how to do this. What's really cool too about software is that I can talk all day long about how to clone this or how to back up that, because at the end of the day, they need my software to do it. So you choose a niche, set up an opt-in page giving away something for free like a report. Now you're building a list. You send them messages. At first, send them affiliate links or other people's offers where you get a commission back. And if you can create your own product, create your own sales letter, great. I wrote my first sales letter when I was 17 years old, 18 years old. And you know what it was? It was a headline, 10 bullet points, an order button. And that webpage made me $400 overnight once I figured out the traffic part, maybe thousands of dollars over the next several months. So it doesn't have to be fancy. And if people are already looking for this, if you have a targeted crowd, if you're creating a product based on a need, not just for fun, like most people who create products and books do, then you're going to have an easy time selling. I mean, Backup Creator. It's used on tens of thousands of sites. And I didn't want to create it. But I kept getting asked to make it. I noticed that the existing solutions weren't that great. I knew that the way that I would use this plugin, the way that I would create it is different than everyone else's, so that's adding value. Now it's something that people want. People are already looking for it. People are ready to buy from you for it. So why not just create it and give it to them? That way you don't have to put a lot of effort into selling. You don't have to turn someone's whole way of thinking around. They're coming to you. They're searching on Google. They're searching on YouTube. They're searching on the site where we publish articles called Easy in Articles because they want the solution. So you put that in your sales letter. Once someone clicks and buys, you send them to what's called a download page, which is a hidden web page, and there's a link to get their report, their video. Now the next logical step in this is a membership site. And you've probably seen a membership site because you probably logged into Amazon.com or to Facebook today or to YouTube. These are membership sites, or Gmail. A membership site is a site where someone can be a member. So what's really interesting is that when you sell, say, like your beginner guitar course in video format, sure, you could send them a DVD. You could put a video on a web page. But if you create a form, something someone can fill out after they buy, where they can become a member, well, then now we're talking, because someone can interact with other people inside that membership site. Someone can log back in and see any kind of updates. When they're ready to buy the intermediate guitar course, the next course, you can put a link to that in the members area. You're building a list so that everyone who buys from you now gets on your list as a paid buyer. So a membership site is very, very valuable. But you have to get everything in place. You have to crawl before you can run. So you have a membership site, and now you have pretty much the money-making part figured out, right? Niche, opt-in page, autoresponder sequence, sales letter, membership site. And now we kind of have to do a little public relations. And that means set up a blog. Preferably, if yourname.com is available or some kind of variation, then grab that. If not, I know people who brand themselves. For example, like if Sherm Cohen, if there was another Sherm Cohen who owned his name, then he would be Sherm Cohen Storyboarder. If my friend Ray Edwards, who is actually the whole reason I made this podcast, the Robert Plank Show, if RayEdwards.com was taken, then he would register RayEdwardsCopywriter.com, something like that. So get some variation of yourname.com and set up what's called a WordPress blog. Once again, at Newbie Crusher, we show you all that. There's not really time, or I can't really explain it to you just from audio, just from a podcast. Set up a blog, put your name on it, and every now and then just talk about stuff. If you find something interesting on the internet, why post it on your Facebook wall where it's going to be buried and forgotten in a month? Why not put it on your blog where people can find it by searching around the internet, and they see you know what you're talking about, and then it links back to your opt-in page, links back to your sales letter for your product. Many times, I notice that just from looking at my logs and my tracking and all that, people will come to a web page of mine ready to buy, but then they'll leave. And they'll kind of do a little background check on me. They'll look and they'll say, well, I'm about to buy this backup plugin, but let me just search Robert Plank WordPress, and let me just see what Robert Plank talks about. And they see that, you know, I have hundreds of articles on article sites, hundreds of videos on YouTube, hundreds and hundreds of blog posts, lots of blog posts on other people's blogs that I've written for, and it's talking about WordPress, technical stuff, marketing, and then they say, okay, well, this guy knows what he's talking about. And that's what someone should say about you as well. So you have your blog, and that's just kind of I think that's a place where you should update maybe once a month. And now what we want is this thing called traffic, which is kind of the tricky part. Now we need people to link back to you, and that means set up what's called an affiliate program, just like how Amazon has. This means that maybe we'll have to pay for some ads on Facebook, on Google. We'll have to put out some articles, some videos, some content, but we provide, it's like we have our paid product, and our best stuff is there, right? Our exact system is there. All of our tools and templates, it's there. The stuff that's just too good to give away, but that stuff is so good that in comparison, we're fine writing articles or making podcasts, for example, or free videos online with a few pieces of the puzzle, just because we enjoy it that much. And because if we can solve somebody's small problem for free and they become a fan of ours for life, well, then we'll end up getting rewarded because we'll build a huge list, and when there is something for sale, then they will buy that. And I mean, if you find, I'll just tell you right now, I have a YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com/phprobert, PHPROBERT, every now and then, if I have something that doesn't quite fit into a product, then I'll make a video for it. Sure, some of those videos demonstrate some of my plugins, but some of them, for example, I like an hour video on YouTube showing how to set up WordPress multi-site, which is just a technical thing. But I didn't want to sell a product on it, and I was messing around with it, and I said, all right, I use this, let me make a video about it. So I guess after winding this down, one thing that I want, I guess one of many things that I want you to kind of get is that you need to build a business that you can be proud of. And if you can get even a small result for someone, show them, I don't know, how to repair a home, how to start a business, how to save money on your taxes, that's something that people will pay money for. So there's no point in doing it once and then stopping. I don't think there's really a point in slowing down or in letting yourself get tired. I mean, you do want to wake up to, for lack of a better term, a big pile of money every morning because people found your website overnight. They were a member of your membership site and they were billed overnight. And it all kind of just happens. And maybe it started off slow, but at some point it turns into an autopilot system. Because you set up a niche, opt-in page, email autoresponder sequence, a sales letter, membership site, a blog, and had consistent traffic coming in. So I hope that's a good introduction for me, Robert Plank. I run webinars, I set up membership sites, I sell software, but I believe in systems. And you and I are going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to share a lot of really cool, secret, advanced techniques on these episodes that you're going to be able to implement right away. For example, I mean, one thing I'm the most proud of is I can write what's called a sales letter in a day. I can knock out an email in 5 minutes, a blog post in 10 minutes. I can sit down and in 6 hours time total create 100 articles and do that as many times as I want. So lots of cool systems, lots of cool strategies, but don't be, I guess, distracted by the simplicity of it. Just know where the problem is, where you need to focus. And one thing we didn't really have time to get to was this thing I have called 4 daily tasks, which means don't have a to-do list, just get 4 simple things done every single day. I'm Robert Plank, and that was how to start an internet business on autopilot. Join us in the next episode, which is how to sell anything online using the magic of copywriting. I'm Robert Plank, and have a great day. By the way, go to newbiecrusher.com if you haven't already. Subscribe and all that good stuff.